My name is Marcus Vale. I am 43 years old, and this is not a success story. This is a story of betrayal, patience, and revenge that didn't need violence to destroy lives. I built Vale Tech with my own hands. No investors, no shortcuts, no powerful last name behind me. Just work, late nights, missed holidays, promises broken to myself so the company could survive. I thought sacrifice guaranteed loyalty. That belief almost ended me. The betrayal came from the one man I trusted more than myself. Daniel Cross, my partner, my friend, the man I once saved from bankruptcy. I gave him shares when no one else believed in him. I defended him in boardrooms. I covered his mistakes quietly. I taught him everything. And that was my first mistake. The board meeting was supposed to be routine. Quarterly numbers. Expansion plans. Instead, it became my execution. Daniel stood up calmly and said, "Before we move forward, the board needs to review some serious concerns regarding Marcus." I didn't even understand the sentence at first. The screen behind me lit up. Emails, financial records, illegal transactions, all under my name. None of them mine. I laughed, not because it was funny, because my brain refused to accept how clean the setup was. The votes were cast. Unanimous. No questions. No defense. By noon, I was escorted out of the company I created. Employees avoided eye contact. Security avoided conversation. I was erased in silence. That night, I sat alone in my apartment staring at headlines that destroyed my reputation in minutes. Daniel's name wasn't mentioned once. That's when the lesson hit me like a blade. The most dangerous betrayal isn't done by enemies. It's done by the people who know exactly how to replace you. I didn't call a lawyer. I didn't fight publicly. I disappeared. And disappearance scared them more than anger ever could. Because when a man goes silent after betrayal, it means he's learning. Daniel believed Add 1. He was wrong. Because revenge doesn't begin with attack. It begins with understanding the system your enemy now depends on. And I had built that system. When people destroy you publicly, they expect a reaction. Anger. Denial. A lawsuit. I gave them none of it. And that confused them more than anything else. For the first 2 weeks after my removal, I became unreachable. No calls returned. No statements released. No lawyers speaking on my behalf. The media labeled it collapse. Daniel labeled it victory. Both were wrong. I wasn't collapsing. I was studying. Here's something no one tells you about betrayal. The betrayer always celebrates too early. Daniel Cross took my office on the 3rd day. He didn't even wait for the dust to settle. That detail mattered. Men who rush into empty thrones usually don't understand why they're empty. I watched from the shadows. Not physically, digitally. Vale Tech was my creation. I knew its habits the way a father knows a child's breathing patterns at night. Every shortcut, every dependency, every weakness hidden behind impressive revenue graphs. Daniel knew the numbers. I knew the bones. While the company released statements defending its values, something else was happening underneath. Clients were nervous, not because of the accusations, but because of my absence. I had been the one who slowed things down when excitement got dangerous. The one who refused deals that smelled wrong. The one who insisted on written guarantees instead of friendly handshakes. Daniel removed all that. Speed returned. And with speed came exposure. I took a small apartment under a different name. No luxury. No comfort. Just silence. Silence sharpens the mind. At night, I replayed memories. Not emotionally, strategically. Who had access to what? Which approvals were symbolic, and which were real? Which partners Daniel trusted blindly? I didn't need evidence. Evidence would arrive on its own. I needed timing. Daniel's first mistake came quietly. He hired aggressively. New executives. Young, ambitious, loyal to him. He wanted control. What he got was insecurity disguised as confidence. People hired too fast don't absorb culture. They reshape it. And Vale Tech's culture had never been designed for speed without restraint. A week later, a former client contacted me through an encrypted email. He didn't ask if the accusations were true. That told me everything. Instead, he asked, "Are they safe?" Safe. Not profitable. Not innovative. Safe. That word doesn't belong in conversations unless danger is already nearby. I replied carefully. "I no longer have influence," I wrote. But I'd advise patience before committing further. That wasn't a warning. It was permission to hesitate. Hesitation spreads faster than panic. Daniel began appearing everywhere. Podcasts, panels, interviews. smiling, confident, rewriting history. He spoke about modernizing leadership and removing bottlenecks. I was the bottleneck. Or so he said. The irony? Bottlenecks prevent floods. Behind the scenes, he removed internal checks. Compliance became optional. Risk review became advisory. My systems were labeled outdated. Outdated is what people call rules they don't understand. Inside Vale Tech, fear changed shape. At first, it was quiet. Then it became productive. People started saving emails, confirming instructions in writing, requesting approvals twice. Fear doesn't kill companies immediately. It documents their deaths. I contacted no one. I didn't need to. When a system loses its stabilizer, its own weight does the work. One evening, Daniel finally reached out. Not officially, not confidently. A single message. We need to talk. That sentence carries desperation when it arrives too late. I didn't reply. Silence is not cruelty. It's leverage. Days later, the first audit request arrived. Routine. Friendly. Daniel dismissed it publicly. Privately, he panicked. Audits are dangerous when your power depends on speed. They slow you down. I smiled for the first time since my removal. Not because I wanted Daniel to fail, but because truth had entered the room. And truth never leaves quietly. That night, I wrote one sentence in my notebook. Disappearance isn't W. Weakness. It's preparation. I wasn't planning revenge. Not yet. I was allowing reality to catch up with arrogance. And reality is always patient. Silence doesn't stay empty forever. It fills. With assumptions. With fear. With evidence. The audit Daniel ignored didn't disappear. It multiplied. One request became 3. 3 became routine reviews. Routine reviews became concern. And concern is the most expensive word in business. Inside Vale Tech, conversations changed tone. People stopped asking what's next. They started asking who approved this. That shift marks the beginning of collapse. Daniel responded the only way insecure leaders do. By tightening control. More approvals. More meetings. More speeches about unity. Unity is always demanded when it no longer exists. He replaced calm with urgency. Urgency creates mistakes. A compliance officer resigned quietly. No farewell email. Just gone. 2 days later, a senior analyst followed. Then a project manager. People don't leave sinking ships immediately. They leave when they stop trusting the captain. Daniel blamed market pressure. Markets don't cause internal fear. Leadership does. Meanwhile, I stayed invisible. Not hiding. Observing. Patterns began to repeat themselves. The same partners Daniel trusted were the ones I had blocked years ago. The same shortcuts he defended were the ones I had refused. I didn't need access. I already knew the ending. A journalist emailed me. Carefully worded. Neutral tone. Dangerous curiosity. Do you believe Valetech removed you to protect the company? I read it twice. Then deleted it. Public truth too early becomes noise. Noise helps the guilty. Daniel made his second major mistake during a quarterly call. He overpromised. Revenue projections inflated. Expansion timelines unrealistic. Risk language absent. Investors don't panic immediately. They remember. 2 weeks later, funding slowed. Not withdrawn. Delayed. Delay is a warning shot. Internally, people started preparing exits. Externally, partners started demanding guarantees. Guarantees Daniel couldn't give. Late one night, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Silence on the other end. Then a familiar voice. Marcus. No anger. No arrogance. Fear. I need context, Daniel said. People are asking things I can't answer. I said nothing. He continued. You built this. You know how to explain it. Explain. Not fix. Explain is what people ask for when damage is already done. You wanted control, I replied calmly. Now you have it. That was all. I hung up. That call cost him more than he realized. Because the moment a leader asks the man he betrayed for clarity, his authority dies. The board noticed. They always do. Not the call itself. The consequences. Daniel became hesitant. Approval cycles slowed. Confidence fractured. And fractured confidence spreads faster than doubt. An internal memo leaked. Not to the press. To the board. Carefully. Selectively. It highlighted decision overrides. Risk bypasses. Missing sign-offs. None of it dramatic. All of it damning. I didn't leak it. People protect themselves when leadership stops protecting them. That's human nature. Daniel scheduled an emergency board review. Closed doors. No assistants. No phones. The most dangerous kind. That night, I slept deeply. Not from relief. From certainty. Because revenge wasn't something I was doing. It was something Daniel was completing for me. I wrote another line in my notebook. You don't destroy a man by attacking him. You let him speak until everyone hears who he really is. By morning, Vale's future wasn't decided. But Daniel's was. He just didn't know it yet. The boardroom never feels dangerous. That's why it is. Soft lights. Comfortable chairs. Calm faces trained to hide intent. This is where people lose everything. Without anyone raising their voice. Daniel arrived early. That alone told me how badly things had shifted. Men who believe they're untouchable arrive late. Men who feel the ground moving beneath them arrive first. 7 board members. No assistants. No devices on the table. That wasn't protocol. That was containment. The chairwoman spoke with practiced calm. Daniel, this is a review. Not a disciplinary hearing. Every execution begins with reassurance. They didn't accuse him. They asked questions. Why were internal controls overridden? Why were compliance approvals skipped? Why were risk warnings ignored? Daniel answered confidently at first. Confidence built on habit. But habits collapse when questioned repeatedly. A board member leaned forward. Who approved the final decision on the Northbridge deal? Daniel hesitated. Just a second. But seconds matter in rooms like this. I did, he said. Ownership without justification is not strength. It's exposure. They slid documents across the table. Emails. Approval logs. Timestamps. No opinions. Just patterns. Patterns don't argue. Daniel tried to reframe. We needed speed, he said. Marcus slowed everything down. That's why the company stagnated. My name hung in the air. The chairwoman turned to me. Marcus, she asked, was this framework designed to slow growth? I didn't raise my voice. No, I said. It was designed to prevent failure. Silence followed. Not uncomfortable. Final. Daniel looked at me then. Not angry. Confused. As if he finally realized something important. Another board member spoke. We're also concerned about leadership culture. That phrase ends careers. They referenced resignations. Documentation habits. Delayed decision confidence. All symptoms of fear. Fear doesn't come from markets. It comes from leaders. Daniel stood. I take responsibility, he said. But removing me now would destabilize the company. That's the last argument of fallen leaders. Fear. The chairwoman didn't blink. Instability already exists, she replied. Our responsibility is to limit damage. Limit damage means remove the source. They asked Daniel to step outside. He walked past me, slower than before. For the first time, he looked like a man who understood the cost of ambition. The vote inside was quick. No discussion. Unanimous. Boards don't hesitate when the math is clear. Daniel was called back in. They didn't say terminated. They said transition. Immediate leave. Interim leadership. Public statement pending. Clean words for a brutal ending. Daniel nodded. He didn't argue. He couldn't. After he left, the chairwoman spoke again. Marcus, we may need your guidance during stabilization. Not power. Guidance. That distinction mattered. I agreed. Not for revenge. For responsibility. That evening, no headlines appeared. Markets hate shock. They prefer preparation. But inside the company, everyone felt it. The fall had happened. And me? I didn't feel victorious. I felt balanced. Because revenge isn't loud. It's precise. The announcement went out quietly. No press conference. No smiling faces. No celebratory language. Just a statement buried under market updates and quarterly adjustments. Daniel Cross has stepped aside effective immediately. Stepped aside. Power doesn't step aside. It gets removed. Inside the company, reactions were controlled. People nodded. People whispered. People pretended they weren't relieved. Relief is dangerous to show too early. Emails flooded in. Some thanked me. Some apologized without using the word sorry. Some asked what would happen next. I answered none of them immediately. Leadership isn't about speed in moments like this. It's about calm. Daniel disappeared. Not dramatically. No arrest. No headlines. Just a sense. And absence is the cruelest form of punishment for men who crave relevance. The stock dipped again. Not because of Daniel. Because trust takes time to return. Markets forgive slowly. I began stabilizing operations. Not restructuring. Not rebranding. Stabilizing. Controls restored. Approval chains reinstated. Risk assessments reactivated. I didn't add anything new. I simply put back what had been removed. People started breathing again. That's how you know you're fixing something. A week later, a journalist tried again. This time, I replied with one sentence. Systems don't fail suddenly. They fail after warnings are ignored. Nothing else. The article wrote itself. Daniel's name surfaced briefly, not in business pages, in social ones. Former executive seen selling downtown apartment. Status doesn't vanish overnight. It erodes, piece by piece. One afternoon, I received a message. Unknown number. We need to talk. I knew it was him. I waited. Waiting is not cruelty. It's control. 2 days later, I agreed to meet. Public place. Neutral ground. He arrived early. That used to be my habit. Daniel looked older. Not ruined. Just emptied. He didn't sit immediately. Did you plan this? He asked. I shook my head. No, I said. You did. That answer landed harder than accusation. I thought I could manage it, he said quietly. I thought you were holding things back. I nodded. I replied. From collapsing. He stared at the table. I didn't think it would end like this. That sentence contains every failed leader's autobiography. You didn't lose because you betrayed me, I said calmly. You lost because you misunderstood what you replaced. He didn't argue. There was nothing left to argue. We stood. No handshake. No apology. Those are for people who believe damage can be undone. As I walked away, I felt no triumph. Just completion. That night, I reviewed final reports. The company was stabilizing. Slowly. Naturally. Without spectacle. That mattered. I wrote one last line in my notebook. Revenge is not destruction. It's allowing consequences to arrive without interference. I closed the notebook. I wouldn't need it again. Revenge gives you options. That's the part no one talks about. After Daniel was removed, the board offered me everything back. Title, authority, control. The same power I lost. The same power that almost destroyed me. They called it restoration. I called it a test. Power feels different when you know exactly what it costs. I asked for time. Not to think. To confirm. I walked through the building alone one evening. The halls were quieter now. Not tense. Focused. People worked without fear. That mattered more than ownership. I realized something then. If I took control again, the story would repeat. Different name. Same ending. I declined the position. Gasps followed. Confusion. Fear disguised as concern. Instead, I proposed something dangerous. A structure where no single person could dominate again. Distributed authority. Mandatory transparency. Independent oversight. Systems that don't rely on heroes. They resisted. Then they understood. Then they agreed. Daniel didn't call again. He didn't need to. His lesson had arrived. Months passed. Vale Tech recovered. Not dramatically. Correctly. That's how real healing looks. On my 44th birthday, I sat alone with a glass of water. No celebration. No regrets. Just clarity. I didn't win by destroying Daniel. I won by refusing to become him. People think revenge means taking something back. Sometimes, revenge means walking away with your integrity intact. I now work quietly, advising, designing systems, preventing disasters before they need villains. When people ask me what happened, I say, I was betrayed. And then I stop. Because the rest of the story belongs to the lesson. The deepest revenge is not proving them wrong. It's proving you never needed what they stole.